Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We will present our article about problem-based student worksheet for online mathematics learning in elementary school during the COVID-19 pandemic. The author are me, Melva, Zainil, and Mr. Ari Kenedi. The background are mathematics learning is a process using symbols and numbers. Mathematics is an abstract study that has an impact on people's life. There are numbers advantages of learning mathematics for student life processes. As a result, learning mathematics should begin at a young age, even among elementary school age students. In order to test mathematics learning to the characteristic of student development, teachers in elementary school must be able to adopt mathematics learning to the characteristic of student growth. The teacher must be able to concentrate trace about abstract mathematics learning. Elementary school teachers must be able to create concentrate procedures for their children. LKPD development, even though this is as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, the use of LKPD must continue. Learning process during the COVID pandemic necessitates on online learning procedures. Despite the fact that the learning process takes place, only teachers must be able to the learning process is adapted to the need of researchers discovered that in the online learning process, teachers should use the WhatsApp as means of communication between teachers and students. Even in the mathematics learning process, students are only given homework and teaching materials by the teacher who expect them to do them at home. The teacher learning process is in opposition to learning process that is in line with the nature of elementary school age children growth, which requires active learning and is based on student direct experience. After being handed a learning motivation questionnaire, this has an impact on pupil poor learning motivation. The student's learning motivation score was 58, 16, with less category according to the learning motivation questionnaire. Based on these findings, it can be stated that teachers only teaching methods are incompatible with the characteristic of elementary school children, resulting in poor student learning outcomes. Furthermore, it was discovered that the teacher did not provide a KPD tool during the learning process. As a result, we need a solution to be able to overcome this. The next slide will be continued by Mr. Ari Kenedi.
Thank you, Ms. Melva. Can you stop the share screen? Your share screen.
Okay.
Ladies and gentlemen, okay, I will continue the Miss Melva present. So, developing PD is one of the most effective way to address these issues. The LKPD must be used that is tailored to the needs of elementary school students and can engage them. A problem-based learning approach is the best method to adopt. As a result, The goal of this research is to create problem-based student worksheet for online mathematics learning for elementary and during the COVID-19 pandemic. They are valid, practical, and effective in increasing student learning motivation. The research methodology. This is development research employing a four-dimensional model is define, design, development, and disseminate. For different phase, the researchers does a needs analyze, a material analyze, and a student analyze during this defined stage. The researcher employed systematic design and layout design during the design stage. The researcher made LKPD and conduct validity, practicality, and effectiveness testing during the research through LKPD during the disseminated stage. The subject is the student in the fourth grade at a private primary school in Padang City. The type of data used is qualitative data in the form of observation and interview as well as validity data by expert obtained from observation set. Quantitative data in the form of practicality and effectiveness data obtained from distributing questionnaires. The data analysis for qualitative data analysis technique including collecting, reducing, and drawing conclusion, whereas quantitative data analysis technique include collecting the average score of each data set and converting it to category table. We can see from this table. The result and discussion, a need analysis based on finding of the study. The research believes that teaching material in the form of problem-based learning worksheets are needed to encourage students to participate actively and creatively in the learning process. After that, conduct curriculum analysis. The curriculum analysis in mathematics for grade for elementary school is most significant key that researchers perform well, producing problem-based learning worksheet. Mathematics is one the learning material include the curriculum book, basic competency 3.9 and basic competency 4.9 are the topic covered in the teacher book for learning about circumference and area of flat shapes. The circumference and area of square, rectangle, and triangle, as well as their link to square root are explained and determined in basic competency 3.9 and basic competency 4.9. Solve problem with the circumference, area, and relationship between square root and square, rectangle, and triangle. The student analyze. A literature review was used to prompt student analyze. Elementary school kids are in the concrete operational period. According to the literature review, this signifies that student is learning through concrete object, direct experience, and student activity demanded. For the design phase, at this stage, the LKPD is being prepared in systematic manner, cover, preface, table of content, learning objective, tool and material instruction, and work mathematics. The research spread the light out by taking into account the color, writing, letters, and image utilized in LKPD. The next step is development phase. The step is to develop the LKPD after the design. LKPD is developed media and language expert after it has been established. Material expert assessment. We can see from the table shows that the material aspect state that the LKPD input was less failing at meeting one or first meeting. Expert offers suggestions for improvements such as applying the LKPD work step and ensuring that the material developed is not overly broad. The researcher then revised and resist the LKPD, declaring it to be highly valid. Assessment of media expert will also given to the researcher. Next, the media expert assessment. From the table shows that at the first media aspect meeting, it claimed that the LKPD established was highly valid. Expert do, however, suggest adding a cover border, limiting the number of frames on the cover, and utilizing aerial and times New Roman font. Linguistic expert assessment. From the table shows that the language aspect of first meeting state that the worksheet generated was valid. Expert, on the other hand, continue provide idea improvement, especially that the language use should be simple and that there are still typos. And resist the LKPD, declaring it to be highly valid. And we can see from the affirmative of the expert, the table shows that the average expert assessment recapitulation is 87 with a highly valid category. This demonstrates that LKPD credit is both valid. And then we can, the next step is a practicality test. The purpose of the practicality test is to determine whether the LKPD method is practical. The teachers and the students' perspective are considered in the practicality test. From the table shows that the practicality test from student aspect is safe in 88 in the highly practical category, while the practical test from teacher aspect is safe and 88 and the highly practical category. This demonstrates that the LKPD product is extremely practical for both teacher and student to use. The effectiveness test. The purpose of the effectiveness test is to see how effective the LKPD was in raising elementary school children learning motivation during the COVID-19 pandemic. This is obtained from the questionnaire distribution about learning motivation. The first questionnaire distribution received a score of 68, and the second questionnaire distribution received a score 86.50. The figures show that the student learning motivation increased from initial motivation to an average score of 58.60, then to 68 point at the first meeting, and finally it is 86.50 at the second meeting. This demonstrates that employing problem-based worksheets in online mathematics learning increased student learning motivation during the COVID-19 epidemic. The conclusion, the study conclude that during the COVID-19 pandemic, problem-based student worksheets for online mathematics learning for elementary school students were produced, which can enhance student motivation to learn the way that is valid, practically, and effective. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for your attention.